Good morning and good afternoon. This is Melissa. It is Real History with Melissa, and it is the 14th of May, 2026. And I'm really excited today that Neil Foster, on our usual second Thursday of the month, we are joined by Sandi Adams. So, hello, Sandi. How are you?
Hello, Melissa and Neil. I'm really well, and thanks so much for having me on today. It's really great because I hadn't spoken to Neil since probably 2014 when he was in the UK. So it's really nice to revisit him as well. And it's great to meet you, Melissa. Thank
It's
you.
nice to meet you too. So, I was not familiar with your work until I saw the interview that you did with Dom and Chris on Sheep Farm,
Yeah.
which was excellent. And Neil said, I know her and you should get her on here. But so, your area that you have really dived into and studied includes Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, social engineering, and also, technocracy, everything that we are in now and going into more deeply. And it's just, okay, that's right up the alley. And it's up the alley of what we should talk about and find out where you think we are. But before we get into that, you have a very interesting background, and I wanted you to tell us about that.
Well, I started I wanted to leave home as quickly as I could, as most kids do. And the only way, I mean, my parents wanted me to go down the academic route, which I sometimes I wish I had done, but my life would have taken a very different turn, I think, if I'd gone down the academic route. So I went to art school because I it was my way out, and I studied set design and for theatre and television. And I went into theatre first of all, and really loved it. Theatre was great. Really enjoyed it. And I worked at the Old Vic and designed, and I used to paint big backdrops and stuff like that. I loved it. But think, as things moved on, as you go on, theatre didn't pay very well. So I ended up catching the corporate train and going into corporate live events, which led me down a very interesting path. And it's the path that kind of woke me up, along with many other things, which I'll tell you about later. But one of them was that I started working for big corporates on because suddenly live events became a big thing with the corporate world. People like GlaxoSmithKline, Microsoft, Google, and they wanted big installations, where people could come and look at the stuff they were selling or whatever, and then go out and push it all over the world. And it was a really it was a big change from working in theatre, which was all very lovely. And I suddenly found myself working with these big corporations and absolutely hating it, to be honest. I worked for Google. I met Eric Schmidt and Jared Cohen, which was a very interesting meetup. I was designing an after party for them for a Google event that they did in Dublin. And then I did a big installation for Microsoft in London in 2000. It was the early 2000s. I cannot remember. It may have been 2005, or no, it was earlier than that. Gosh, I can't remember. Anyway, it was an installation for Microsoft, and it was a mini smart city. And I didn't know anything then. I was so green as grass. But all I knew is that it didn't feel right. That it was a London square. I had to design a London square. They called it Microsoft Life Squared. I mean, you might be able to find stuff on it on the web. But anyway, I designed the whole thing. And it was, a London square. We took over an old school actually in Chelsea and turned it into a London square. And they brought all the infrastructure in, all the connectivity and everything. It was a bit like the Internet of Things. And they brought everything in. And it was way before anybody knew about this kind of technology properly. We knew about it, but we didn't have it in our lives. And I did have to meet Bill Gates, shook hands with him, got a very weird reaction. That I just didn't like him, thought he was weird. And it was very odd. And then because prior to that, I'd done something which Microsoft really liked, and it was called Microsoft Home, and that was a home that was all interconnected. So this was a follow-on to Microsoft Home, and it was this everything talked to each other, and in this square there was there was a car with GPS, which people had no, this was like unbelievable technology then, and it was sort of really interesting because you had an interconnected cafe, you had a cyber cafe, which had never been heard of, and a print business. And the BBC came and interviewed Bill Gates on the sofa of the house. There was a house also within the square that I had to style. And Trevor McDonald came and interviewed him on the sofa about this new world that was going to emerge. And I just got this really bad feeling about it. I thought, I don't really like this. But all my colleagues were really thinking it was cool and wonderful. And then, of course, I did do the thing with, I was working for GlaxoSmithKline, and they were doing, things like the language they use in board meetings, like we're going to penetrate the Ayurvedic market and we're going to penetrate the lunchbox, which is children drinking Ribena, rotting their teeth, but then at the same time they sell toothpaste to stop your teeth rot, or supposedly full of fluoride. But all of that just didn't gel with me at all. And when they said that they were going to penetrate the natural medicine of India, with their pharmaceuticals, that's when I just thought, no, I've got to get out of here, and I did. And I didn't know what I was going to do, and that's when I came to Glastonbury, and I met Neil.
Well, let me ask you a quick question about these events that you were designing in the corporate world. You've got BBC coming to interview Bill Gates, but for the overall thing, were they just press events? Were they something for their peers, for other business people to come in and look at? I mean, who was the audience for
The
that
audience,
15-minute city in the smart house?
good question. This was people, for instance, buying software. This was people who within that it was the people they were selling all the stuff to promote it and get it out into the mainstream, I guess. And because there was a big delegates center, so they invite all these delegates from all over the world or wherever. Yeah, they were from all over Europe actually came to this thing, and so they kind of treat them to seminars and they can test the software and look at it, and so they had this big delegate center where they just viewed it all, I guess, and sort of they're selling it, really plugging it to everyone, saying, hey, this is really cool, this is a really good idea. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I had a kind of a similar background, and I mean similar but very different, in that I was working in Hollywood as an agent, but in the very early years before I settled on literary, I was working as an assistant to the head of a department that nobody had ever really heard of. They created it special called New Media, and they built a media lab, and it was a place where, and this was early days of the internet, and anyone having any kind of connectivity, and email was brand new. I know you can't believe this, but it was all new. And so what they were doing was showcasing this state-of-the-art technology, all kinds of state-of-the-art technology, some of which isn't really even yet today in mainstream use, so that directors, producers could come in and see what it would look like, see what the finished product would look like. So it was exciting, and everybody was reading Wired magazine, so it
Oh yeah.
was, yeah, early days of how exciting this
Yeah.
world was going to be.
Exactly. And it sounds very similar to what I was experiencing because I do remember doing a Philips one and bringing back this CD, they're all kind of rainbow colors of CDs. And look, this is the new technology because we had videotape, I think. I can't remember what we had, but it was just seeing this kind of rainbow colored disc saying, oh, wow, this is amazing. This is the future. And, and it was Philips. And it is funny that time where suddenly everything changed. It was the night, sort of like 2090s. It was the 90s, wasn't it? It wasn't the 2000s. It was the
Yeah, yeah,
90s.
it was the 90s.
The
It
90s.
was
Yeah, I don't know why I'm
it
saying 2000s.
was
Yeah. It was the
probably
90s.
95,
Yeah,
94, 90.
95,
Yeah.
97. Yeah, around then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when it was. And it was, yeah, you just think, oh my goodness, the world really did change. And I wonder whether, I mean, obviously we know this was a big, there was this big push for technocracy, from really, but I think Zbigniew Brzezinski he reinvented the technocracy movement in the 1970s and called it, sort of the new economic order, I think he called it. And it's almost like from the 1930s when it was put to bed, there was this whole technocracy movement in the 1930s. It suddenly got reignited by Zbigniew Brzezinski. And from the 70s onwards, they were working on this huge plan to bring this technocratic world, into our like into our being, if you like. And that's exactly what happened. And the technocracy movement of the 1930s really happened from Columbia University, and you had the whole Technocracy Inc. Did you know about Technocracy Inc? They were this company that formed, and they were the very beginning of the Club
Musk,
of Rome.
Elon Musk's maternal
Yes,
granddaddy. Yeah.
that's right. His
Yeah.
granddaddy was that absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, he was the one that they really pushed for it between 1930 and 1947. In 1947, there was this last push that Elon Musk's great grandfather really did. He got this convoy of grey cars. I don't know if you knew the convoy that went right the way from California to Vancouver. And they stopped at every Freemasonic temple on the way to, really try and push a social credit system. He was actually
Mhm.
he had the Social Credit Party, and it was pushing this carbon-based economy as opposed to a price-based economy.
Don't
So
you
it was
think
all based
it's
on energy.
don't you think
Yeah,
it's fascinating that he's one of the big proponents
yeah,
or the fatalists about universal basic
yeah,
income?
absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
I
we're going
mean,
to have
isn't
to
it?
have it, and it won't be a bad
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So yeah, I mean that they've tried so hard, and of course, at that time, I think they gave up in 1947, 48, and of course that's interesting because that's when the United Nations appeared, and the whole state of Israel and the Balfour Agreement, all of that kind of happened after the technocracy movement failed, and it did fail because people weren't ready post-war to give up capitalism. They couldn't see a way of 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 of, of going along with what Joshua Haldeman, Elon Musk's great grandfather, I can't remember,
It was his mother's father,
his mother's
so
father.
his
So
grandfather.
his grandfather. It is his
Mhm.
grandfather.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think people just couldn't let go of capitalism, because suddenly there was this, in the 1950s, all this wonderful. It all boomed, didn't it? The oil boomed, everything. Suddenly everything got big, and I just think that pushing this rather austere carbon-based economy didn't appeal to people, so it failed. But then, there's always somebody that's going to pick up the baton and try again. And
Mhm.
Zbigniew Brzezinski was the man, and he wrote, what was it, the Between Two Ages?
Mhm.
I think it was, yeah. And that that really pushed it. And of course, then they set up, the Club of Rome in 68. And the Club of Rome really is behind what was Agenda 21, which is what I was studying really. So the bones of Agenda 21 came from the Club of Rome with several Club of Rome reports that they wrote. And some of them were people that had been involved with Alexander Schneider, for instance. Was it Alexander Schneider? Was involved in the technocracy movement, and he wrote one of those Club of Rome reports, which was called the First Global Revolution, which was really how they they used climate change to
Hmm.
they were throwing around ideas, let's find a way of getting everybody united against a common enemy, and they thought climate change would fit the bill. So that
Hmm.
was in 1991. So, but there were a couple of other reports, Club of Rome reports, that there was limits to growth. Of course, that was all about depopulation. So they had this idea: there's too many people on the planet. So they had to get this ingrained into our psyche, this guilt trip that we are the blot on the planet. We're the ones that have caused all this awful stuff. Climate change. It's too many of us. There's not enough resources to go around. So, and most of it was computer modeling anyway. And so they managed to really get the bones of Agenda 21. And then, of course, that happened in 1992. And since then, it's just been full on,
Hmm.
uh, let's take over the world under global governance. And that's
Hmm.
kind of what we're living with now. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting when you were talking about Haldeman and the convoy across from the West Coast to Vancouver, that or from California to Vancouver, where whatever the track was, it just seemed that the marketing, the branding was off for that push then, because you're coming out of World War II, it's bleak, and people are ready for something that's bright and colorful, and everything about their branding was kind of brown shirt except for gray shirt fascist. It had a very fascist quality to the marketing of it, and they might have been able to pull it off had they done something a little more fun.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I mean, I think they even wore these strange long grey
Hmm.
coats, didn't they? Just
Hmm.
like the Nazis, and they did funny salutes and all sorts of very questionable stuff going on. So I just wonder, I think people did suddenly think, do you know, it's not quite for me. It was all too different. And yeah, so we obviously hung on, capitalism clung on for a little while until now, really, when it's all breaking down again, because they're pushing this global. It's almost like global communism on us, or communitarianism, call it
Hmm.
whatever you like,
Hmm.
mind control. We've got all that, cultural Marxism. We've got all that now, and so they don't really need to start a new movement. They've done it through our minds. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, how did you got to Glastonbury and then you made the leap out? So, what happened?
Well,
What got you started down the path of
well,
understanding this?
I think I was on the road anyway, and I'd been working in the corporate world. I decided it wasn't for me. I didn't know how I would live. I was going through a divorce at the time because my ex-husband at the time was very he was very into it all, and didn't seem he thought I'd gone mad with the research I was doing, because I mean, I started reading. There's a there was a book came out in I think it was around 20. Yes, of course, it was Rosa Koire. I wrote Rosa
Mm.
Koire, Behind the Green Mask,
Hmm.
and I suddenly thought it just everything fitted. It was the whole, because I'd actually tried to join the transition town movement at one point, and then realized all that was wrong, and so I thought, no, this is all wrong. And it was really reading Behind the Green Mask by Rosa that I finally put things together. And we did communicate quite a bit, Rosa and I, in the early days when I was trying to raise awareness about Agenda 21, as it was then, in Glastonbury. And I took
Hmm.
it to town councils, because at that point we were going through this whole giving over our powers to the EU. We were going through the Nice Treaty, the Maastricht Treaty, the Lisbon Treaty, and I was absolutely against all that, because I could see that again it was all part of the plan, to unify Europe. And the whole thing. I mean, now we know that the WEF were all working with the European Union, which again has fascist roots. So all of that I was really opposed to, and I was fighting it in town councils, trying to get them to not go along with policies that came from, these places, and realizing that Agenda 21 was in every single town council. Um, in England under ICLEI, the
Hmm.
Intergovernmental, it's called the International Committee for Local and Environmental Initiatives. So all of that was coming at us right, like, and that's around the time that I met Neil, because we were working with Article 61 of the Magna Carta, and David Robinson, who sadly passed away, and a lovely guy called Lance, who we both knew, who sadly has now passed on. So yeah, we were getting a movement together, and I realized, and I started doing talks. I just started doing talks in Glastonbury, and I just began to do talks on Agenda 21, and then of course it became Agenda 2030 in 2015. So you could see the acceleration. They needed to accelerate it because originally Agenda 21, when they brought it together at the Earth Summit in 1992, they got 178 countries to sign up to what they thought was saving the planet, but it wasn't. It was global governance. And so, once that was actually put down, and prior to that, all the people that had organized that summit, you got Edmund de Rothschild, you got David Rockefeller, you got Maurice Strong, they're all billionaires in their own right, and
Hmm.
oil billionaires at
Hmm.
that. And they'd all invested in the carbon credit banks prior to the Earth Summit. So they wanted this whole climate thing because it's a great way of guilt tripping everybody into signing up for Agenda 21, the agenda for the 21st century, and saying that it was going to save the planet. But it
Hmm.
wasn't. It was to bring the technocracy in and the control. But nobody knew that in 1992. So, they paid loads of green activists to be there to push it through and to get them all on board in Rio de Janeiro, where it was held. And, Prince Charles was there, and Royal Yacht Britannia, clinking his champagne glasses with them at the end, saying, "Hey, we did it. We did it. We got everyone to sign up to global governance, and they think it's saving the planet." So, the whole thing is, it was a coup. It was a massive coup. Yeah. And
What
then
what was that quote of Prince of, well, at the time he was Prince Charles, but his father, Prince Philip, had likened people on the planet to a
to a virus.
virus, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's eugenics at the heart of all of that. It, I mean, what can you say when you realize that, it's like you're all the people in charge are like axe murderers. It's horrible to realize. It's like finding out that your parents are axe murderers when you realize your whole government actually want you dead, you know. So it's not easy being alive right now. I think a lot of people don't realize what is happening, and they're probably a bit nonplussed and they can't work it out. But it's a plan, and unfortunately, it's been a very long-term plan for a long way. When you look at Galton and all, the Galton Institute and
Hmm.
all those George Bernard Shaw, all those people that were actually working and working on this for a long time. You've got, Bertrand Russell and the whole education stuff as well, that everything has been indoctrinated, everything has been infiltrated, to achieve this agenda, of the loss. They talked about it at the Earth Summit. Actually, Edmund de Rothschild talks about the lostness of the mind, and how this is how people will be. They won't know who they are, and this is just like unbelievable that people who are in top positions really don't have our interests at heart, and learning that and understanding that is half the problem. I think people have, they're so busy on the hamster wheel of just trying to pay their bills that they don't have time to look into all this stuff. And that's been, for me, the joy of that was I took over a pub when I left the corporate world. I took over a pub because I wanted a venue, and I was able to talk about things like this and enlighten people a little bit more. And we had guest speakers, and it was, yeah, it worked. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
uh,
that's one thing Alan Watt would say on Cutting Through is that they have it so well worked out. The young people who would have the energy to do something to somehow organize and fight back, they keep them really entertained, the
yeah,
hormones stimulated, sex, drugs, rock and roll. That what that's about is
yeah,
taking out the youth. And then you get married and you've got your children and you're burdened. And by the time that you might have look around and go, well, this isn't right, then you've run out of steam.
that's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, it's it's difficult. I think the worst ones at the moment are the millennials, because they got so much indoctrination in universities and stuff. There's a little ray of hope here because I'm finding that the 17 to 22-year-olds and are pretty getting they're almost like there's a backlash going on because they've seen their woke parents and they're not having it. And I'm seeing that. I mean, at the moment I'm working with some younger people, and certainly one is a young journalist, and she's amazing. She's 22, totally switched on, and really doing some fantastic work with her own podcast. And I just think, we need more of this, more youngsters really waking up. And I've been mentoring her for a while because she was going in the wrong direction at one point. I went, no, 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 you're too good to go in that direction. Come on, you need to know what the truth is. And she's brilliant. Her name's Emma Dunwell, and she's fantastic. And you might know her, I don't know, but she's amazing. And I'll introduce you to her. Yeah,
Okay,
she's
great. Yeah, I'm finding a similar thing too, where I'm communicating with listeners who range from between say 20 to 27. I mean, I know they're all ages, but it's right in there in that age group that are very exciting because they do, some of them going back into their high school days have, been researching and thinking about this. So there is a backlash. I do see that.
yeah. So, I mean, that's quite exciting, really, because I think, we I keep thinking, oh, I really like to just, enjoy my life. Not that I can at the moment anyway. But you get to the point where you've been on this so long, you just think, oh God, there must be. I really thought we would have it cracked. I thought, oh, it's climate change. We'll easily knock that one on the head. But oh no, after the lockdown, you suddenly realize that how deep the technocracy has moved on, and how they literally, whilst we were sleeping, the infrastructure went in to accelerate it. And
Hmm.
really, lockdown was all about acceleration again.
Hmm.
Like they accelerated Agenda 21 because it was 8 goals in 1992 to be executed by 2000. And of course, they didn't meet that target. So then they had to create Agenda 2030 in 2015 to push it. And then, of course, by 2019, it still hadn't moved its targets quick enough. So then, obviously, the whole pandemic thing was another shift to accelerate 2030 without a doubt. And in fact, it's obvious when you think of the Klaus Schwab in 2019 had a meeting at in Geneva, and it's called the Strategic Framework Partnership Meeting, and it was to accelerate Agenda 2030. And then, literally 4 months later, in John Hopkins in New York,
Hmm.
they held Event 201, which was the what if tabletop exercise. What if a novel coronavirus escaped from a wet market in Brazil? What
Hmm.
would we do? And of course, they'd added Bill and Melinda Gates into the mix, saying, "Yeah, we've got the answer to that." So, and that's where it started. That was in November 2019, and what happened really from there is history, because January 2020, it was all happening, all kicking off. They brought lockstep in,
Hmm.
which was from 2010. So yeah,
It is fascinating. I mean, it's horrible, but it's also fascinating to see the coordination, how long, how far back it goes, and how coordinated it is. Because they don't, they may miss their goals, but they just keep going. It's two steps forward, one step back, but they continue to push it forward. And you see things that look like they're rolling out organically, like Event 201. But I read Klaus Schwab's book that he co-wrote with Thierry Malloret
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and it's all in there. First of all, they roll out the Great Reset book with, it was already pre-written by some panel, but they roll it out right in the early days of this event. And it says in there, oh, look, all of this is happening. We're going to get more of these zoonotic diseases because of climate change. And they're still beating the same drum
Yeah.
today. The hantavirus is climate change. It's,
It's and it's bonkers, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
you realize, and I think people won't have it now. I mean, I honestly believe. I mean, they tried monkeypox, they tried oh what's the other one? I can't remember. But all sorts of other the avian flu, the monkeypox. I can't remember. There's a few others, and it didn't quite get off the ground. And I'm just wondering, people are beginning to ask questions about this hantavirus because it's just appeared and they say it's from rats on a ship that's been going all around Antarctica or somewhere. So, where did it come from? And quite honestly, it's yet another massive fear thing, isn't it? To get everybody scared. And they're saying, oh, it's much more deadly than coronavirus, and they've got a number of them up their sleeves. But do you know, I did look at a podcast the other day by Dr. Zelensky. His name was the Jewish guy who was really calling out coronavirus in. He's American and he's an amazing guy. He did sadly pass away, but he said all these major ones, and he died a long time ago. Oh, I say a long time ago. I think he died in 2021, 22. And he was saying, all these ones that they talk about, like Ebola and all the serious ones like hantavirus, he said can be easily, and he said he'd done the research. You can get rid of it with vitamin D3 and zinc. And he said there's no fear anywhere. If you are in fear of getting it, just up your vitamin D3 and up your zinc, and you'll be fine. You'll be protected from it. So there I think there is a massive thing where they're just trying to scare the hell out of us again. And probably they really want another lockdown. I believe that they have to in order to get what they want, which is total control and digital ID and everything else. They have got to try and lock us down
Well,
again.
the one thing that I think is that they aren't going to depend on pandemics. I don't think that will be, I think that's just one prong of the
Mm.
attack.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you look at what's going on with
It'll be
gasoline, it's
energy
going to
down.
be
Yeah,
energy. Yeah.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
can easily have climate lockdowns.
Yeah. Well, they did talk about climate lockdowns a long
Hmm.
time ago, didn't they? Saying, on certain days you won't be able to use your car, or maybe you won't be able to use your car at all. I mean, really, they want us in our smart cities or our low traffic neighborhoods or wherever they can lock us down. They just want to us not to have freedom of movement. And I think you're right. I think they could go for that. I think you're right. It is a various pronged attack, and they could just come out with anything, really. Yeah.
Hmm. So, Neil, you're quiet, but I know you have some questions.
Come on.
I'm always quiet. I'm always quiet.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, no. Right. Okay. You mentioned the Maurice Strong earlier,
Yeah.
and one of his quotes. I'm just trying to bring up here what to do with it. Yeah, I've got the whole Green Agenda website on a PDF. Because one of my friends had the forethought to do that before that site went down. I'm not sure what happened to the guy who was running it, but it disappeared one day. But Maurice Strong isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse. Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? Now, what we're seeing now in Iran is doing just that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then Paul Ehrlich on the same PDF. A massive
Oh yes,
campaign must be launched to de-develop the United States. Well, I think it's more than the United States, it's the whole Western world. De-development means bringing our economic system into line with the realities of ecology and the world resource situation. And then Michael Oppenheimer. Of course, Paul Ehrlich was a professor of population studies, so I don't know what he's talking about de-development for. Obviously, he knows it's got something to do with population control, right? Of course, Maurice Strong at the time was a founder of the UN Environment Programme, and Michael Oppenheimer, Environmental Defence Fund. The only hope for the world is to make sure there is not another United States. We can't let other countries have the same number of cars, the amount of industrialisation we have in the US. We have to stop these third world countries right where they are. Well, they're kind of doing it in reverse, aren't they? They're destroying all the Western nations and they're bringing up the third world countries to the same, well, bringing us down to their level of poverty. And then Maurice King, who he wrote the book with Schneider, didn't he? First Global Revolution, was it? Was it that
that's
one?
right. Yes, yeah.
Global
First global,
sustainability,
yeah.
yeah. Global sustainability requires the deliberate quest of poverty, reduced resource consumption, and the set levels of mortality control. So there you go. This is where we are.
It's exactly where we are, and they've been planning it for such a long time. And it's interesting. Maurice Strong is I mean he always described himself. He was the Secretary General of the United Nations
Mhm.
in 1992 when he launched the Earth Summit, and he he always described himself as a capitalist by methodology and a communist by ideology. So that kind of sums him up. That's kind of what stakeholder capitalism is. He's that, it's that finding that middle way between communism and capitalism, the sort of, if you like, the thesis and the antithesis, and finding somewhere in between. And so you just realize that, and also he was also very, very linked to China. I mean, I believe one of his relatives was very close to Mao Zedong. And
It,
I think they
when
actually
he,
lived next door to him, didn't they?
yeah, that's right.
yes, it was his cousin, I think,
His
that
cousin,
was
that's right.
buried, actually is buried near, in the plot near Mao. So,
Yeah, yes, exactly. I think they were very close.
yeah.
But it was it was interesting because when he got involved in the oil for food scandal, and was going to be charged in the US, he fled to China and stayed there for many, many years. And he and George Soros set up a car company called Chery, Chery, and they were carbon unfriendly cars that they were selling to the US. So it just shows you he has no scruples. These were really, the petrol cars. They were in if you're going to go on about climate change, he was selling these carbon unfriendly cars to back to the US just to make money. And George Soros was involved in that, so they were very good friends as well. And he really never ever cared about environmentalism. It was all about money. It always was. So even to the point where I believe there was some scandal about water on his ranch in Colorado. Was it Colorado? I can't remember where his ranch was, but it was somewhere in America. And he was actually taking the water away from the people so that he could divert it onto his land. And I think that was all found out, and that scandal went to bed. But yeah, we know that they really, all they wanted to do was capture the world and capture the resources of the world. And really, they turned the world into a management system, which is exactly what they've done. And through all these big corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard, and this is all their plan coming into fruition. It's controlling the land and all the resources on it, taking it away from the people. And that's what this, I mean, do you remember this, Neil? This is the Global Diversity Assessment, this huge book that
Oh,
I used to
yeah.
I used to, sort of show people in in Glastonbury in the when the sort of mid 2000s and onwards, until yeah, and until they sort of started really accelerating Agenda 2030. But the Global Biodiversity Assessment is really the what came out of the Earth Summit, and it was this massive manual on how you could control and manage the entire ecosystems of the world. And it's an inventory of every mineral, every planet, every plant, every animal on the planet in this assessment, and how it was going to be managed. But they don't really talk about humans in it at all. There is one part where they talk about human settlement zones. And that's when I used to talk about the Wildlands map of America, because that was their initial plan, was to actually put everybody into smart cities. And I think it was David Foreman put that together, the Wildlands map of America, where most of it's color coded in red and yellow, and all along this color coding, there's little pink dots, and the yellow and red is where humans aren't allowed, which is most of North America. And then you've got these little, no, they weren't pink, they were grey dots, which were the smart cities, and the pink dots were where the indigenous people, the indigenous settlements would be. When I say indigenous, I mean Native Americans. And then the grey dots were the smart cities. And everybody was saying, well, how would they ever get to implement that? Well, this is how they do it, because they're doing it now, with
Well,
smart cities. Yeah.
when we I think it was 2014, we were down in Glastonbury, down by you when the floods were happening down there. Was
Oh
that the last
gosh.
time we met?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
well, I
think
mean,
that must have been it. Yeah.
yeah, because it was in all the European Union documents down there that they were going to make the whole area wetlands and
Yeah.
floodplains for birds and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
we were in that pub down there, the King's Head or
Oh,
something. Can't remember what it's called.
The King Alfred
Is that
pub.
what it was? King Alfred,
Yeah.
yeah, and
No,
which was
it was.
surrounded by water.
Yeah, honestly, it was awful. And I really had a wake up call there, actually, because we went down to Sandbag. Do you remember? And
Yeah, yeah.
the river was rising and rising. And I met a journalist down there. And he was from the Telegraph, and he was quite an elderly gentleman. And he was not like the other journalists. All the other journalists, there was Sky News, everybody was there on the bridge saying, "Oh, the whole of Somerset's flooding and blah blah blah." And and he said to me, he said, "This is Agenda 21." And I said, "I've been reading about Agenda 21." He said, "Yes." He said, this isn't a normal spring rainfall. This is all about infrastructure and how they've degraded the infrastructure in order for it to flood. This is planned. This is a planned attack." He said, "Look at policy 6 of the Environment Agency." And it was so extraordinary, because he opened my eyes. So I went and looked at policy 6 and found that in 1997, it had been designated as a floodplain by Baroness Young, under Agenda 21. And I thought, oh my goodness, they planned to make it a floodplain for wading birds. But during that process, all the people in that area had lost their businesses, their livelihoods, their houses, their livestock. Everything had gone. And it was just such an awful thing to realize that this was all done in the name of biodiversity, which was ridiculous, because so much wildlife died. I mean, you saw deer, floating belly up down the River Parrot, and hedgerows underwater. So it killed much of the biodiversity of the place.
And the water was too deep for wading birds.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I mean, and there's a wildlife sanctuary just nearby, a bird sanctuary. So
What?
why they needed to flood that part of Somerset? But we're getting it all again. I mean, they've stopped dredging the Reens again, and the infrastructure, they cut trees down along the rivers so the water doesn't get sucked up. So again, it's problem reaction solution.
I,
They'll get whatever they want by
yeah.
just policy.
I,
Yeah.
I remember being the first time we went down and we were talking to the locals and pointing out the European Union documents that said all this, that it was
Yeah.
deliberate. And then the second time we went down, they would barely talk to us because somebody had got to them.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was quite strange. And then, of course, they got taken to 10 Downing Street and had multiple glasses of whatever they were drinking and came out all smiley happy. And that was the last I ever heard about it.
but all the councils are involved in it as well. I
Mhm.
mean, I despair. We've still got a Green Council here. I mean, I keep thinking, why am I still here? I'm still battling away. I tend not to engage with the council anymore, and I've been banned from speaking in this town anyway, because I'm apparently a right-wing extremist.
Well, I wrote to my city commission here, and I had a meeting. Well, I was down there during the COVID thing and told them that Fauci should be in jail, and they were all shocked. But um, I wrote to them and said about Agenda 21, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're making this a 15-minute city, blah, blah. And the head guy wanted to have a meeting with me. And I said, okay. And I knew he was a crook. So I just said, well, before we have a meeting, you might want to spend, an hour reading some documentation about this. And I left that with him, like the PDF. I sent him this PDF. I pointed him to some of the quotes and stuff. And a couple of other things on Agenda 21. And he never got back to me. So I wrote back to him and says, you claim not to know anything about Agenda 21, but there's a document on your website about it. And I never
Really?
heard another word. Yeah.
So who was this again, Neil? Can you
No,
remember
this is
who?
in no, this is in the States.
Oh,
I'm in
it's in the
Florida.
States.
I'm in
Ah,
Florida,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
you see, a lot of them just don't really know. Either they're just willfully blind, or they just don't understand. Because our council, they've got documents with the 17 goals all over them, and I say, do you
Well,
really
but
know what 17 goals
this was a
are?
document, yeah, this was a
Yeah.
document from Truth Stream Media, which was very
Oh,
critical, obviously, of Agenda 21. And
yeah,
one of the past commissioners had obviously stuck it on the website so people could find it, but they didn't even
yeah.
know it was there. So that was good. But
It
anyway,
is.
that's
It's
the city
yeah,
commission.
unbelievable. And things are just marching on. I just wonder what the future holds, particularly with this war going on.
Well,
And
the
yeah.
big thing here now in terms of 15-minute cities are flock cameras. And flocks for sheep, right? Sheep
Oh,
get
right.
kept in a
Okay.
pen, right? Sheep are kept in a pen. So that's what the flock cameras are for, to keep us in our 15-minute city.
But
Um,
is that
but
geofencing? Is that what it does? Does it
yeah,
actually keep?
yeah,
Yeah, it's geofencing. Wow.
yeah.
So is that
Because I
actually
mean,
happening in the States?
not yet, but
Not
I
yet.
don't think they've got them all where they want them to be. But we've only
Yeah.
got them at one end of the. I live in a small city, so they've only got them at one end at the moment. But it's only a matter of time before they put them on the other major roads that come this way, and then
Mm,
they'll start coming out with the the lockdowns because we can't get any gasoline, right? So you
mm.
can't drive your car one day a week or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
and
I think
then
they
you
can
put.
actually do some of the geofencing with just straight up CCTV that
Oh, I'm sure,
they
yeah.
have everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the AI will flag it up. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. I just out of curiosity, do you recall the name of the journalist that said, "Heads up, this is Agenda 21"?
Yes, his name was Christopher Booker.
Oh yeah, we
I
interviewed
thought
him.
that's who it
Yeah.
might be.
We
He's
interviewed him at the
wonderful,
time.
and yeah, he wrote that amazing climate change study on groupthink. It's free. It's a free PDF on the web, and it really lays out the absolute nonsense about climate change. And I think he was at the Paris Climate Conference, and he was very vocal there, the one that Trump walked out of, because it was about emissions. So, the fact that India and China are allowed to burn as many fossil fuels as they like, but we in the West, my goodness, we were sanctioned, and our emissions are so much lower, and we're getting hit with all this stuff. And he was asking why, and he's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
well, just
and the why is part of the why is to take manufacturing out of the West, out of the US, and put it in China and India. So,
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
actually we actually got an interview with Christopher Booker in his house. He invited us to his house to do an
Oh,
interview,
really?
really,
and I
Oh,
think Dave Eden's still got that footage somewhere. And
gosh,
then
do you
and then
still,
he
gosh,
took
do
us to the bar
people
and bought us all
actually?
drinks. That was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I kind of lost touch with him after the floods. I wished I hadn't, but he was a very busy man, and then sadly he did pass away. So
Mhm.
I was very upset when he passed away, because he did write a very good article in I think it was the Telegraph and the Times, about about the Somerset flooding, and he said it was a deliberate flooding under Agenda 21. He absolutely said it. So that was good enough for me. Yeah, yeah,
We'll get back to oh, just a quick word on the hantavirus you mentioned earlier. I sent
yeah.
you the a few definitions of what hanta meant, Melissa, and
Yes.
Isn't
the
it
and the
madness or
last one
something?
was nonsense.
Yes, that's it.
Well, share that if you don't mind, Neil. That was
Okay,
interesting.
well
Yes.
the full quote. Let me see, I've got it here somewhere. Okay, hanta most commonly refers to a family of dangerous viruses, hantavirus, carried by rodents, but it has distinct meanings in other contexts, including Lakota, move, get out of the way. There you go, that's Agenda 21, right? Sanskrit, killer, stroke, alas, and Hungarian, it means nonsense. So get out of the way, alas, it's nonsense.
Get out of the way. Oh dear. Yes, I'm just hoping it'll die a death like the monkeypox, and
Yeah,
they'll just get bored with trying to get us scared.
yeah. Well, there's apparently I saw this yesterday, I think. They sent helicopters, the military in Britain, to some remote island off the coast because apparently one guy who lived there might have had hantavirus. Well, how did they know that if he's the only guy there?
Yeah, how did he get it? I mean, yeah.
Feeding his pet rat,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're trying to say it's rodents, and I
Yeah.
don't know. Who
Yeah.
maybe it's
Well,
who knows.
well, maybe they're going to turn around and say it's the bubonic plague.
Well, that is one of the things that they keep at Porton Down, isn't it? I'm
Hmm.
very wary of Porton Down because they hold all these horrible, including hantavirus. They've got all those horrible viruses apparently secure and safe. But they did have an outbreak from the labs there in 2007, I think it was, where I think it was foot and mouth got released, and it was through poor drainage or something, and it caused some kind of foot and mouth outbreak in Wiltshire. And so they're not as secure as you think they are. And Porton Down is deeply dodgy. It's all military. It started off as some kind of bioweapon factory a long time ago, just after the Second World War. So, it's pretty murky, really, what goes on at Porton Down. And
Well,
interesting, just after the lockdown, the Queen and Prince Philip actually went there. No, was it Queen and Prince Philip? I can't remember. I think it was the Queen. Went and sort of said thank you to them, I think. Yeah. Mm. But it's a military, one of those military installations that deal with
like Fort Detrick.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Hmm.
It's the British Fort Detrick. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the reason I mentioned to Melissa to get you on is because you did that interview with the sheep farm folk just prior to when this nonsense started in Iran,
Yeah.
right? And I thought, oh, I wonder if she's changed her mind because the Iran thing is bringing about Agenda 2030 really quickly now.
Yeah. I mean, tell me
Because
about more
just
about Iraq because
just
I'm
just
yeah,
one
go
more
on.
quote here. This is James Lovelock, well-known eugenicist, in a BBC interview. The big threat to the planet is people. There are too many doing too well economically and burning too much oil.
Yeah, James
So
Lovelock apparently has done a bit of a 180 on all that. He's one of
mm,
us now, apparently. I don't know
the
if he's
fox in
still
the hen
living.
house.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. What do we know anyway? Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it was just that. But as I say, you've done that interview before the Iran war started, and now we've seen this going on. Um, we had this discussion last month, Melissa, and the month before about the cutting off the oil. Well, America doesn't need oil from the Middle East, you know.
No.
But I did read, Melissa, this will interest you because we were talking about this last time. The last shipload of crude oil arrived from the Middle East to the United States this week. Now, remember they said they didn't have enough refineries to process what they already had. So
Hmm.
why would they be bringing crude oil to the United States when they're a net
Exactly.
exporter?
Yeah. I mean, the United States, you're pretty self-sufficient in oil, aren't you?
They,
But
they produce more than they
It's
use.
Europe
Yeah.
that's in trouble, I think, and
Hmm.
that's how they're. I think they're. they're managing to, uh, how again, these lockdowns will happen is because apart from our North Sea oil, which we stopped drilling, I don't think we've got a great deal of oil. I mean, they could
I
open
think,
up North Sea again, couldn't they?
yeah, there's plenty of oil and gas off the coast of Ireland,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they just oh, we can't do that. It's against
Mhm.
it's bad for the planet,
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's always bad for the planet if it's Europe and
Yeah,
America, but if it's anywhere else, it's fine. Yeah.
yeah. So, what are your thoughts on how this excuse of a shortage of oil and obviously fertilizer now for Europe, particularly? Uh, what, how do you see that moving forward? Because a lot of farmers are going to be in big trouble. Especially
Well,
the big. I'm sure the big guys will get what they want, but the
yeah.
family farms won't get anything.
Well, there are alternative fertilizers which we're looking into. I can't say too much right now, but there's certainly a quarry not far from me where there is an amazing fertilizer that we can mine ourselves. But I think you're right. They're trying to start that, this whole fertilizer thing has been going on for a long time, and it's really put farmers in a lot of trouble because they can't, it's been rationed and there's not enough of it. But it's everything. The farmers have just been hammered, really, particularly in England and Ireland, as Ireland is really. I did a really good interview with a lady called Jana London the other day, and she was talking about what's happening in Ireland, and they're the sustainable goals, the uptake of the sustainable goals in Ireland is 80%, whereas worldwide it's about, I don't know, 14 to 17%. And so they want to really break Ireland, and I think they'll break the UK now, or they're trying to break the UK next. But the farmers, they have. I mean, all what they called the sustainable farming incentive was not an incentive at all. It was actually encouraging them not to grow anything. They could do anything so long as it was a business on their farms that was not growing. They could open up. They could invest in solar farms, wind farms. They could invest in glamping, forest schools. They could grow herbal leys. They could, and herbal leys are good, but not everywhere. Not to the detriment of food, and the food security is compromised. So that's what we have at the moment. Is that there is no food security at the moment because legislation is just saying, right, you've just got to hammering the farmers also with the inheritance tax, here.
Yeah. Well,
And we had a big, Hmm?
the
Sorry.
whole thing about food security is it's stated that is a prime tenet
Yes, it's one of
um,
yeah,
of national security.
it is. It's one of the government's 13 protected infrastructures,
Which they have
food
to deal with.
security,
Yeah.
which they have to. And we've put this through to Parliament, and they just take no notice. They just make up their own rules. And really, if you look at the way Britain is now, we're a small island, and we are not really producing nearly enough food to feed ourselves. It's mostly imports. So the minute those planes stop flying in and out and those ships stop coming in and out, we're stuffed. We will starve. And this has happened before. You look at the Bolshevik Revolution.
Mhm.
All of this has happened historically before, and I think really that the farmers here, it's really sad because I was helping with the farmers' protests, sort of raising awareness because a lot of them were still believing in climate change because they work hard and they don't have the time to research. A lot of them were still really into the whole climate change thing. So I was particularly involved with Cornwall, Somerset, and Devon and Somerset, and it was just before the protests that they had in on Budget Day, and they were fed up because the farmers' protests did get infiltrated by people that were kind of breaking it up and just breaking them up, but saying they were helping them, and lots of different actors coming in, and we knew it was all intelligence. And the fact is that a lot of the farmers thought, right, we'll go it alone. We'll take our tractors up there. And they did. They took the tractors to London, and in Whitehall they brought their tractors in. They'd already negotiated with the Met Police about tractors and bringing them into Whitehall. And the day before they brought all their tractors up, and it takes a long time to bring a tractor halfway across the country to London. And they were told when they arrived, you can't put them in Whitehall. No, that's not an option anymore. So what do you do when you've got all these tractors? I mean, hundreds of tractors coming into London. Big vehicles. They're huge now. And they were told, oh, you can park them in Trafalgar Square or Pall Mall or whatever. So they did. And their whole thing was that they wanted Rachel Reeves to negotiate on the inheritance tax. And of course, by the end of the day, the police were impounding the tractors. So it was like insult to injury. They'd been told they couldn't bring them into Whitehall, and then they were told they could park them elsewhere. And then they impounded them and fined them all. And so the track that, it really has made the farmers think, what's the point in protesting? And maybe that is a point. What is the point in protesting? I don't know how do they, how can they get their grievances across? It's very difficult.
Well, if nobody's going to listen, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's no point
Yeah.
protesting if nobody's going to listen. I mean, they may as well do their own thing, start, ignoring all the environmental regulations and all the rest of it, saying, no,
Well,
we're not
this
having
is
it
what
anymore.
we're trying to encourage them to do. The trouble is that some of them just are not those kind of people. They've lived by the book all their lives, and it's trying to educate them. I know that sounds pompous, but trying to make them realize that it is just regulation, it's policy, and actually, surely their real remit is to feed the people. And there's a lot of the farmers now not selling to supermarkets, which is the first
No, that's
step.
good.
Don't
Hmm.
sell to supermarkets,
Hmm.
and they're selling directly to farmers markets and markets all
Yeah.
over the
We
southwest.
just we discussed that a few months ago, Melissa. I think
Hmm.
that's the best
Yeah,
Hmm.
farmers market you could get would be on a
yeah,
farm.
Hmm.
yeah. And we've got
You,
to expand that. Yeah.
I think you touched on something too about how if you shut down sea traffic and you shut down air traffic, then people really are going to starve. And just here, this is for the traveler, but it is going to back up into commercial airlines, who are just doing transport, which is we're feeling the pain at the pump here. I don't know what petrol prices are there, but we're feeling the pain at the pump. But the commercial buyers of gas and diesel are really feeling it, and that includes airlines. We had an airline here in the States that shut down 2 weeks ago, and that was a budget airline called Spirit Airlines. And I understand that JetBlue, which is another budget airline, is about to declare bankruptcy. And
Mm.
there's Southwest, which is maybe the last of the budget, and it's under, they had a hostile takeover not that long ago. So it's in innumerable ways in which we as travelers and our ability to be mobile, but also the carriers who bring in whatever it is that we need to eat by plane. And they'll just simply throw in the towel and say we can't afford to operate, we can't afford to fly anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether you've seen Neil. Maybe I mean, maybe you have, Melissa. That in the UK we have a document called Absolute Zero,
Yeah.
um,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
and
Neil
that
has
is
shared some funny things.
yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable
Yeah.
because they actually say no flying in or out of the UK by 2049, no ships in or out of the UK by 2049, no beef, no dairy, no sheep. and loads of restrictions on things like building materials, and it really is, it's like the circular economy that they've always dreamed of, in the C40 cities, that you won't you'll only have like 3 items of clothing a year. I mean, it really is, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. But the whole thing about, I remember looking at it, and I did actually show it to my town council, because there's a butcher on the town council. I said, look, they're going to put you out of business. And what I couldn't believe is that a lot of people said to me they couldn't possibly do that. You can't, all the airlines, they're buying new planes and they're building airports everywhere. But, it doesn't matter, that the whole, energy crisis could put paid air travel worldwide
Hmm.
easily. So it could
Well,
easily
there's only
implement it.
supposed to be four airports left in Britain by 2050.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And
So
we
there you
we knew
go.
that in 2014, didn't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's weird. I mean, the whole thing is, what do we do? We've just got to, yeah, we've got to really put our energy into nurturing our relationship with farmers, and buying directly from farmers, and maybe farmers allowing people to have a section of field and growing stuff for themselves. I don't know whether farmers would go along with that, but
Well, I
you
think
know,
your local city commissioners or council should be putting the land aside for the local people.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't belong to them.
They don't, I mean, Glastonbury, my council, came into 23, I think it was nearly 24 million pounds from the government. And it was for local projects for all these different things. And they didn't, they put it all into real estate. They put it
Well,
into their
yeah,
own infrastructure. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
I was while they're building this 15-minute city here, I was at the city commission meeting, and they were saying we're going to have 44,000 more houses going up, and this is it's a very small city. It's probably about 3 or 4 miles long, the main highway that goes through it, and it spreads out, and it's mainly agriculture.
Mm.
And there was oh well, and I said, well, does that mean our property tax is going to go down because you've got 44,000 more families paying property tax? Oh no. I was like, well, where's the money going? Then they wouldn't say. So somebody's lying in their pockets.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there's one particular project in our town where 3 million just disappeared into thin air. And I'm just wondering, it was all kind of backhanders and stuff, and I don't know whether I know the fraud police were called in. Whether it will ever be solved, I don't know, because I don't believe in the judiciary anymore. It's all so corrupt. I don't
Hmm.
think that you ever get any justice anymore.
Yeah.
You've touched on something that I think is an important thing to talk about, which is endemic or systemic corruption. And this goes down to us. What are we willing to tolerate? Where are we? Because it is at the local level. Well, who's the local level? Who are your elected officials? They come from you. And I mean, a recent thing here, like Neil and I had said to each other on a recording that we were going to go to our local councils and try to educate them on 2030 and sustainable development goals and 15-minute cities, everything that we see coming into play. Not so much in my area, but Neil definitely has it. I couldn't get any traction at all, anybody to look at it. And it's the thing is that with elected officials, it's a revolving door.
Mm.
So those little flash drives that I made with, PDFs in them and little videos they could watch, I'll just have to keep doing that every 2 years. For what? To not be heard. Well, local corruption here is that your tax money goes to nowhere that you can see, no transparency. Most of the tax money seems to go to the local school system. They have a bond that they floated, a way to raise money in 2014 for, I don't know, 20 million. They still owe 9 million on that. And they tried at last election to float a $25 million bond. And I was so bent out of shape on this. I made some flyers, but then I was thinking the money that it would cost me to do this, and I just said you're going to have to let it go. You're just going to have to let this
Oh,
go because the what I would have to do in terms of times and dollar, I couldn't afford it. So that got shot down in November. They didn't even wait 5 months. They called a special election. And at this point, I'm just steaming. They broke it up. So it's one bond for 15 million, one bond for 10. And it's so that they can do improvements, build a bigger cafeteria, et cetera, for the growth that is projected. And, of course, the logical argument is when that growth happens, they bring in new tax base. So your needs will be taken care of then. It's just disgusting. And then they did the most disgusting thing, which is call upon, oh, well, we're a Christian area. And it's like, no, nope, sorry. There's no call for a Christian to go into debt, not, it got shot down, but they
Yeah.
will never stop. They will never stop. They keep coming, and the money. And what I found, in terms of local corruption, what I discovered is that that money doesn't go into an escrow account. When a city gets money for a big project, it does not go into trust or an escrow account. It goes directly to the contractor.
Yeah.
That is
That's the problem.
total
Mm.
corruption.
And
Yeah.
that's why it's so expensive.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The,
Exactly.
it's not open for free bid.
Excuse me.
It's not out to, if you want to talk about a capitalist system with so-called competition, it does not go
Tenders.
out to, no
Mm.
10. Yeah.
No, it
It's
doesn't go out to
all
tender. It's all
pre-decided.
it's like jobs for the boys, isn't it? They
Mhm.
just yeah. It's so corrupt, and I've seen it in this town, and it's yeah. Yeah. What can we do? What can we do apart from? I think you know. It's funny. I was a great fan of your late husband. I mean, he was so wise, and he came up with the most amazing stuff. And I have to say, I'm really honored to be on here with you. Thank you. But I was just looking at some of his stuff, and he had this incredible quote. Can I just say it? Because
Sure.
it kind of, it summed it all up for me. And he said, when you can break through this system with all the sciences behind it and the wisdom of ages that's meant to keep you in a mental straitjacket from birth till death, when you've overcome that, you have overcome the world. And I don't know when he said that, but it says that that's what he said, Alan. But what I think is that, it's being able to see through this awful corruption, the system, seeing how that they've created this absolute, it is a straitjacket. We're in a
Hmm.
straitjacket, a mental and physical straitjacket at the moment. And until you understand why it's there and how it's been allowed to happen, and a lot of it's by consent because people didn't know. People were too
Hmm.
trusting and they've consented to everything. And when we realize that we should not consent, maybe that's when we do overcome it. We overcome that horrible straitjacket that we're in, mentally and physically. Because I think really understanding that we're being played, with systems and particularly policy and legislation,
Hmm.
all of that, this lawfare that is being, used against us. We then maybe we can in some way break free. Wouldn't that be great? I don't know. What do you think, Neil?
I was just thinking about like the UK, the divide and conquer thing there. They're using immigration over there quite a bit
Oh
to
yeah,
divide people.
yeah,
And just recently, these local election things you had, these in Scotland, you had these green trannies getting in and stuff like that. Now, if anybody really thinks that people vote for them, they're out of their minds because most people don't agree with that. The vast
yeah,
majority of people don't go along with it. So how do these people get voted in? Maybe it's because the people have realised that voting is a con job and there's no point taking part in it. I don't know. But over here, it's more. We recently had another No Kings protest, to call it, referring to Trump as a king figure,
oh
um,
right,
and just to keep the left-right thing going. And I was thinking of getting a T-shirt done just saying "No politicians" and see what the reaction of people is to that one.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if I say something else, I'll say, "Oh, you must be a Democrat or you must be a Republican." I'm like, "No, don't want any of them."
It's all the labels, isn't it?
Yeah,
And yeah,
they're all
I mean,
criminals. I
yeah,
say this to
all
people
of
all the
them.
time here. I
Yeah.
says, you know they're all criminals. Yeah, unless there's two evils argument. That's what you get. I
Mm,
says, well, you're still voting for evil. Well, what? Why? Why are
hmm
you allowing these people to do this to you?
hmm
So what can we do instead, Neil? Come on, what do you
Just
think?
don't
And
comply
Melissa.
to any of it.
Well, that's a really good question, Sandy, too. And it's difficult because I'm complaining about local policy in my town and the bond of the school and the fact that your car could get lost in a pothole and you'd never be seen again because they
Or
don't
be
do any
turned
road.
off.
Yeah, it's just exactly get turned off. But the thing is that I don't vote. And my not voting is my position. It's like a moral stance. No, I don't do that. So, but I'm telling everybody, I'm telling, my brother, be sure and go down and vote for the, and my aunt, you go be sure to vote no on that. And at least for the second round, somebody took the bull by the horns and put no signs. They paid for it. They put, and maybe if I had the money, I would do something like that, but I didn't vote. Here's the shocker. Town has in the whole outlying area about 8,000 people. And this was the final vote. 277 no and 160 some yes. So they couldn't even get 500 people to go out and vote when it's going to impact their wallet.
Hmm.
Well,
So
I've said
I,
this to you before as well, Melissa, that
Yeah.
it's less than half the people in any of the Western countries that actually go out and vote anyway.
yeah,
So we should have anarchy at this stage because that's the
yeah.
majority.
Well, that would be preferable,
Yeah,
perhaps.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
there was a real win in one of the boroughs in London, actually, where Lambeth Council had put in a low traffic neighbourhood system into a place called West Dulwich. And it's not far from where I used to live in London. I used to live in East Dulwich. And I sort of looked at this and I thought they've overturned it. How did they do that? So the residents got together and they raised £50,000 to take it to the High Courts of Justice in the Strand, and they managed to contest this low traffic neighbourhood on the grounds that the consultation wasn't done properly. And they used something called the gunning principles, of which there are, I think, four. I can't recall what they are now, four gunning principles. But what it really boils down to is that there hasn't been informed consent. So nobody could actually decide, the people should have had um, some sort of engagement as to whether this should go ahead or not. And they didn't. They held sort of little secret meetings and this, that, and the other. And they pushed it through by manufacturing consent, which is happening an awful lot, manufactured consent. So they challenged it and they won. And what was brilliant is that this was all in place. They had to take the cameras down, they had to take the signs down, all the road markings. They had to refund people that had been fined because of the LTNs. And now West Dulwich is free of all this infrastructure. And yet I keep thinking, well, why doesn't everybody cookie cutter that? Why don't they do all go and, you could get rid of all the 15-minute cities in Oxford, Cambridge, Canterbury by doing this. But I don't know whether people, when you're sort of like talking about all of this, how do you contact those people and say, well, you should be doing this, that, and the other? I've tried to raise awareness about the gunning principles, but that apparently is what happened. And they also had to Lambeth Council had to pay all their court costs as well, which is brilliant. So that's one small win, and if
Mhm.
that could be used more, maybe we could push back on all of this. And of course, we do have Blade Runners here. Do you have Blade Runners in the States?
No. Well,
No.
we
You don't?
mentioned this last week with the guys cutting cameras down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got they're doing a great job, the Blade Runners. They just take all the infrastructure down. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they paid for it.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yes. And they've
It's
got
there.
every
It
right
belongs to them,
to.
right?
You're
I'm sorry.
right.
I'm just taking my camera back. I don't think we need it. I'm going to
Yeah,
put it
we
outside.
pay for it.
Yeah, I'm going to put it outside the city commission offices and just keep an eye on those guys because I think we
Yeah.
really need to know what they're up to.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so funny. Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
we had the same situation here that we talked about last month again. That the flock cameras, people won a court case or something, and then the people that owned the cameras, whoever they may be, went to court and they got overturned and put them all back up again. It's
right.
so I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know what you do. I think the Blade Runners have got the right idea.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
Yeah.
there's another element too, and maybe we can talk about, so you've got different areas that you have covered in your trying to raise awareness, and one of them is social engineering. And I think that's something that maybe we can talk about what you're doing there because a lot of people are still in this twilight area between understanding on some level that rights and freedoms are being taken away and it's hitting them in the wallet. But they've been indoctrinated with, gotta save the earth, gotta save the environment. And so they believe this on the one hand. And that's almost the most important thing is how do you break through that? How do you shake them out of that, that it's all
Mm.
real?
I think really it's more than belief systems like climate change or not climate change or whatever. It's the fact that, you know, institutions like the Tavistock Institute and Bertrand Russell and people like that for many, many years have been pushing this it's almost like mind control. It's a way of nudging. We've got the behavioral insights team, which
Hmm.
really came in really people began to realize what it was during COVID because the whole thing is about keeping people, making people, they use fear and emotional conditioning and fear amplification, guilt and social conformity, to pressurize people to doing certain things. And we really noticed that during COVID. You had these awful adverts on the BBC saying you're killing granny,
Hmm.
how
Hmm.
can you look us in the face, and not wear a mask and not get jabbed. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was off the scale. And I don't know whether you must know about this, the Mindspace document.
Yeah,
Did you have that in the state? Well, Neil, you probably do because it's an English
yeah, I've
thing. It
got it.
was
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
put together by the Cabinet Office,
I think
and
Alan mentioned that quite a few
yeah,
times.
it's a behavioural sort of change framework, and everything is a framework now, isn't it? And and it was lots of behavioural scientists linked to the nudge unit, and it was how they can use this document to implement policy that will change people's behavior. And I think that's really what social engineering is about. It's so much deeper, with with mind control and adverts and just even nuances in. I mean, I don't watch television anymore, but we're getting so much garbage on the TV now with sort of reality television shows. Like we've got this one called Traitors. I'm sure you have it in America, but it teaches people to betray their friends, and it's just, I mean, all of this is all part of the plan. It's all part of apart from the fact that the government put it into propaganda. And certainly we're seeing this with hantavirus and with all the stuff that's going on with the wars and everything. How do we know what's real and what isn't? Because we're being played with AI as well. So I think,
We've mentioned this
yeah,
before.
Hmm.
yeah, that
But
it's
I
yeah,
mean, if there was ever going to be a court case, right, and like you said, you have no faith in the justice system, it should be the behavioural insights team, like in a
yeah,
Nuremberg
yeah,
style trial,
Hmm.
because nobody consented to that.
Hmm.
exactly, exactly.
No,
And
nobody even knew
nobody
about it.
knew that they were
Yeah,
being mind controlled. I mean,
and it says in the
yeah,
document they wouldn't know.
Hmm.
yeah,
It says in the document they would not know what had been done to them.
yeah, yeah,
So there's an
yeah,
admission there was no informed consent
yeah,
to psychologically attack them, which is a
mm,
crime, right?
yeah,
I mean, if you were like a not a married couple, and you were psychologically abusing your partner, they can take you to court and have you put in prison for it. But they were doing
Exactly.
it to the whole country.
And now we're getting the most ridiculous, people are being jailed for tweets on,
Yeah.
on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or X. And then, real crimes against women, are being ignored by the police. Rapes and awful crimes, murders are not being dealt with. And it's all in the name of you know not upsetting people. It's just unbelievable. It's all in the name of, yeah, what we're going through is yeah, is unbelievable. Because they feel that social cohesion is everything. You can't upset certain factors of certain
But
people.
but that's exactly what they're doing the opposite.
Yeah.
They're not making it cohesive at all.
No, but
They're doing the
but
exact
you see,
opposite.
that's what they almost. I just wonder whether they're winding us up to the point where we do come out on the streets, and then of course it's easy to implement martial law
Mhm.
and digital ID, because they'll just say, look, this is all too much. It's problem reaction solution yet again, and I just we're literally, I think, a tinderbox at the moment in the
Yeah.
UK. Certainly Ireland's a tinderbox, and I think we're next in line, and I think really something major's got to happen, because again, we've got all these politicians popping up left, right, and so they all begin with R. There's restore, reform, all these different, and I just can't see that politics is going to get us out of this, because either way they're always bought.
Mhm.
Well, politics got you into it.
Yeah, they're always bought,
So
all of them. Yeah,
what's his name? Einstein, was it, who said you can't solve a problem by the same mindset that created it?
exactly. Yeah,
Something,
who
something
said
along those
that?
lines. I
You
think it was
never
Einstein,
remember.
was it?
It
Was it
was
Einstein?
Einstein. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
One of
he
them.
said that's insanity, didn't he? Trying to solve the problem with, yeah.
Yeah. So there's your politics. So they're never going to solve anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's, everything that's going on in the UK regarding immigration was done by design by politicians.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
you're living through the fallout. Same thing
Yeah.
in the US. I mean, it's the same thing. And I think the immigration is really the tinderbox. It is here too, more than anything else that I can see. It's
Yeah.
just it's too
I
quick a
mean,
change.
it's designed to really cause the worst division, because we've got, and it's probably the same in the States, you've got veterans, homeless on the streets,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and people who've fallen on hard times, and they've paid into the system, and then they're bringing these vast amounts. I mean, the volume and the speed at which these people are coming in. Yeah, I mean, Britain's been really good at integrating over years, of multiculturalism and what have you, and been very tolerant. And I think now it's being challenged because of the volume and the speed at which these people are coming in, and also the fact that they're not, they don't value women for a start, and they don't have any idea of the values of this country, and that they break all the laws, and they're not, they're being put into five-star hotels, but they're allowed to roam the streets and attack people. And
I
probably
th-
shouldn't be saying that, but that's been absolutely verified in places like Liverpool, and where there's a high volume of them. And
Let,
I
let
mean,
me ask a question, Sandy. Should you not be saying that because people get arrested in the UK for saying things,
yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
yeah,
I think if you look at where the vast majority of those people come from, I think you'll probably find a lot of empty prisons over there, because I think that's
yeah,
the ones they sent. I
yeah,
don't think it
yeah.
was the
Actually, I
ordinary
hadn't
people,
thought of
because
that. Yeah.
I lived in some of these countries and they're not like that.
Mm,
I lived in Turkey
yeah.
for a while. There are a lot of Muslims there, and Bulgaria as well. There's Muslims there. They're not like that. They're not like the ones that are sent to our countries. Put it that way.
Mm.
And I met a lot of them in the UK as well. I worked for some of them, and they weren't like that either. So it's
And
it's
they're
it's a
not
certain
screened.
it's a
Yeah.
certain type that have been imported.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
worst the worst types. And then we've
Yeah.
got them in our own country, the white folk as well. So it's there's bad folk everywhere, and I think it's the worst of the worst that have been exported to cause us trouble.
It's like a global release of Bastille prisoners, it's just
Yeah, yeah.
What? What was that?
a global release of Bastille prisoners,
Oh,
you know.
Bastille. Yes,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
just
Yes.
flood the
Yeah.
world with the worst types.
Hmm.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
And
they did that in
I
the
don't,
they did that in the war. They made whole regiments up with all the
Yes.
criminals because they knew they were
Well,
nasty.
you know that they did that in co with COVID. Now, I don't know if they did it in the UK, but in the
But they
US
released the
and in
prisoners, yeah,
Canada, they released prisoners.
in case they got a cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah.
unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
they
And
said
then they put in the people that complained about it.
yeah,
They
Mm.
put them in the prison.
yeah, yeah.
And if you think about it, that's what they did to populate Australia, wasn't it? But that's why
Hmm.
they
Yeah.
call us yeah, they call us POMs, prisoners of Her Majesty. Yeah, because the early settlers were just convicts that they thought, oh, we'll go and populate Australia with them.
Well,
Yeah,
there were people who were sent to Australia for basically stealing a loaf of bread to feed their families.
yeah.
They weren't hardcore
Criminals,
criminals,
no, yeah.
And here we are. We possibly get to that stage again.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's very difficult. I have this great feeling that I want to escape, but I have family here and grandchildren, and it's really difficult decision to make. I don't think I can. I can see it all coming and think, do I just go somewhere and hope they follow? Because it is scary. It's really scary. I mean, I've known for a long time that it was going to end like this. I remember, our dear friend Lance talking about it years ago. And I just thought, well, I don't know. Maybe I've kind of always hoped that we'd be able to pull it back. And still, there's a part of me that still feels, yeah, we can pull it back at the last minute, like the Brits always do. It's a bit like D-Day. But will we this time? I don't know. And
But I think the digital ID is going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people
yeah,
because you know, inadvertently they might tweet something on X, and suddenly their social credit score goes down, and they can't get in a store, or they can't buy this, they
yeah,
can't buy that. Then they're going to realize what it was all about.
yeah, yeah,
We've got these new electronic price tags in Walmart now that can change multiple times a day
Hmm.
depending on whether it's, but they say whether it's the busiest time of the day. We're trying to regulate how many people come in at the store. But I've never been in there where you can't get around the store and get your shopping, right? So that's
mm,
nonsense. What it is they want to individually price it to you
Hmm.
personally.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
And if you go up to the red meat counter, if there's one left, and your medical records say that you've just had a stroke or a heart attack or something in the recent past, you ain't going to get it.
you're not going to get it. Yeah. And I don't know if it's the same in the States, but in England, years ago, you used to have open fridges and
Oh yeah, they're
open.
putting doors in them, yeah.
Hmm.
They've put the
Yeah.
glass doors on them,
Hmm.
and that I know is biometrics, so that when they get all your data in one place and they can see your medical records, your social records, your everything in one place, and your financial records and everything, they can then look at it and say, well, you can't open
Yeah.
that, and you just won't be able to open the door. Yeah,
Well, I was in the airport in Sofia. This was I don't know, 15 years ago. And at the bar in the airport, they have that system. The door's locked for your beer, and you have to go out and pay for it, and then they'll open the door for you.
yeah,
That's an early kind of portent of that. But it'll be
mm,
on your face this time. It'll be you personally,
Hmm.
you know.
yeah,
Or maybe
yeah.
maybe you have to put your fingerprint on it or something. I don't know. And
Mm,
then somebody will have to come around and clean that, of course, in case you pass hantavirus onto them or something. I don't know.
mm.
I
And the
still
whole
see people
idea of,
doing that.
yeah, sorry, the whole idea of the zero trust world that they're creating is to make you authenticate before you can access anything like your
Mhm.
laptop, your any of your devices, so that almost and also at tills, at supermarkets, you have to authenticate. And that authentication process is data harvesting at the same time. So this whole thing, I mean, I just say to people, don't engage with apps because this is
Mhm.
building it up. Using an app is almost you literally, turkeys voting for Christmas because all these apps that they want you to engage with instead of doing it maybe a different way, is data harvesting you the whole time. It's there to take all your information. And yeah, I
It's
think
got
we've got to be aware of that. Yeah.
it's gotten so bizarre in the stores here that you'll walk past all the self-service checkouts, right? And there'll be queues waiting to do the self-service. And you walk up to where the human being is on the checkout and there's nobody there.
It's the opposite here because people are not liking those self-service things. And so you've got queues and queues at the human checkout and nobody using the self-serve. Well, quite a few people. The youngsters all use it. They think we're all mad, but when you're older, because you know what's going on, all the old people are queuing up.
Well,
They're queuing up at the human till.
yeah, you
Yeah.
mentioned the young people earlier, kind of waking up and rebelling a little bit.
The
And
younger ones are, yeah.
I mentioned before that I think they're known as the alpha generation.
Yes.
So maybe that's a portent of things to come. The alpha males will start standing up and saying, "Hey, we're having enough of this." But
Yeah.
they they could sort that out very quickly with conscription, couldn't they?
Oh yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
see, yeah,
Hmm.
there's always a solution for them.
But
And you're
they
right, description.
I said to my son, like you've got a look, he's my granddaughter's 17 now, and my grandson's what would be 10. Says, listen, they're going to come for your kids. Like, you better get on this, And you're only 44. It's up to 45, so you might be going as well. But all those young people that are apparently waking up, hopefully they've got the sense to say, no, we're not having it. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
hope so.
yeah,
I
I
hope
don't
so.
think they even need soldiers in. We discussed this before, Melissa. They don't need
Mm,
soldiers anymore.
mm.
They don't need bodies on the ground. They've got drones for
So
that.
what's happening in the States really? Because, obviously this Middle East war and everything. What's the climate now? Because I don't really I'm not sure I believe in any of the news that's coming out.
Well,
So
I'm in Florida, and Melissa's in Texas, and I'm sure the feelings are the same. All these Republicans think it's great.
yeah,
I, you know,
Yeah.
I was at the gas station the other day there, just day before, and by the way, Melissa, up to 460 now.
Hmm. Mm.
yeah,
And there was a lady in front of me, and she was in her 50s maybe, and she was, I bought this car because it's a small car, it's a small engine. I've just put $60 in it. And I says to her, what are you going to do when it's $10 a gallon? Well, you maybe think the war's not such a good idea. And she kind of looked at me like I had two heads.
yeah,
Yeah.
I says, well, that's what they're telling you the reason is.
Hmm.
And she
yeah.
says, well, what do you mean? I says, well, they're telling us that gas has gone up because of the war, but America doesn't need gas from anywhere else.
Exactly, exactly.
But
So
they all still love Trump.
yeah,
Trump can do no wrong.
crazy.
It's amazing. They're nuts. They're completely nuts.
Mm, yeah,
They sit and watch TV all day, I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean, there's a real divide here. I see a
Mhm.
huge divide, and I try to watch a little bit or take in from both sides of the divide to see where people's heads are at. So you've got, no more kings in
Yeah,
the,
they're no kings, yeah.
yeah, it's just people who hate him and the crackdown on protesting what's going on there. But then you do have the Fox people who, no matter what happens, this is a man who was ordained by God and has survived multiple,
The
attempts on
recent
his
one,
life,
yeah, the
right?
recent
Yeah,
one, yeah. Like they all
exactly.
knew it was. They're all there afterwards, lifting up the bottles of champagne and taking selfies. And there's supposed to be a mad gunman running around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
I mean, it's really bad because it's just a little too easy to manipulate people. And that's why, you know, honestly, you'd like to think that people would have understood that they got played at COVID. You'd like to understand, did they understand they got played at 9/11? You'd like to think that they would each generation learn a lesson, and yet if you see them, they stand behind that man no matter what. there's nothing in what's going on right now in the Middle East that serves America's interests if you believe in politics. It's just straight up brainwashing, just
Mm.
straight up media propaganda night and day, and people believe it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. The only thing the war in the Middle East serving is the whole Agenda 2030.
yeah.
That's the only thing it's achieving.
Mm. Yeah.
That's whose interest it's in. Who gains? That's it. Key
Yeah.
bono.
And
Because yeah, I
it's
was, I,
all of this stuff with, the whole poly market betting system tied to
hmm.
blockchain and, who is into this? Trump and Trump's family and his cronies, they're all into the blockchain technology. And as far as I can see, all blockchain roads lead to the World Economic Forum.
Well, apparently
They,
Trump's family's made $4 billion
100%.
in the first
yeah,
month of the so-called conflict.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the fact that they are literally betting, the blockchain, the whole impact investing thing, which Tony Blair is really into as well, and Ronald Cohen, and impact investing and literally betting on outcomes of children in schools.
Mhm,
All of that is so deeply. Um, it's a bit like you know, betting on pork bellies on the stock market. They're betting on our children's futures
mhm,
with impact investing and things like, pay for success schemes and all that kind of thing on the blockchain, and how our children are being data harvested in our schools by the devices they're using, and they're even looking at their rapid eye movements to see where they are emotionally. The whole thing is being read and monitored and logged and tracked and traced, and our children literally in school now from zero to whenever they leave university, and all that time they will be monitored and tested and given all sorts of psychometric testing, that all of that will be on file somewhere, and
mhm.
that their outcomes are betted on. If whether they're going to be fed into the military industrial complex and become incredibly good at all that, or whether they fail the system and maybe have to go on meds and stuff like that. All of that is being looked at and betted on. It's absolutely horrible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is. It's just
Um,
disgusting, but I guess, Alan said there's a word that we should all be using, and the word is no.
it's right. Yeah, it is. It's we do not consent. No.
No.
And how do we get through? How does that get through to people who are so that I mean, my son, he gets it, but he's working like, he and his wife, they work all the time and the kids are in school. I said, why don't we homeschool them? I can stay at home and homeschool them. But they can't see out of the system. They say, oh no, 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 we can't do that. And I think yeah, people are overwhelmed. They don't have the time to look at all this or even begin to believe it. Yeah.
Back to your son and the no to homeschooling, which is an amazing offer. I
Yeah.
mean, quite frankly, Sandy, if I was working and I had children and they were your grandchildren, I would be saying, "Wow." Yeah, absolutely. I mean
You can have them
that's
for 6 months.
yeah.
Give me a break. Yeah.
But I mean, really, the quality of education that you could give them. So, what is it about the system? What is it? Why is there a no there from your son? And
For my son, I think they don't. I mean, I think probably there's his wife, and I adore her. My daughter-in-law is a teacher, and I don't think she fully gets it. I keep feeding her information like, there's a wonderful woman that you have in America, and her name's escaping me now. Um, she Oh gosh, why my brain, and I know her
what does
really
she
well.
do?
She looks at everything, but particularly education. Lynn Taylor. Do you know Lynn Taylor?
I don't
She's
know Lynn
No.
Taylor,
Oh,
but
she's
is she?
amazing. She's really looks at data harvesting and education. She's
Mm,
amazing. Sorry, her name escaped me. It's because we've got so much stuff in our heads at the moment. But I've been sending a lot of her stuff to my daughter-in-law, because my daughter-in-law actually works in what's known as a cyber school. And she knows it's bad, but she's got a very good job there. And she these school this school is it's not far, it's in Gloucestershire, it's not far from GCHQ, I think. And I think they take highly intelligent children who are slightly on the spectrum, through this school to more or less groom them for, intelligence and stuff like that. And bless her, she knows what it's all about, but she teaches English, and it's her way, she says, of teaching them something beautiful. Like she's teaching them GCSE O and A level English, like she'll be doing Shakespeare and poets and all that kind of stuff. And the children come and they absolutely love her classes, because at the moment that is allowed, but a lot of the arts are going out of our schools, because they want them to be STEM schools, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and the humanities kind of not so important, or not important at all, because that doesn't fit into this regime that they want our world to be. So she teaches that, and she loves her career, and she doesn't want to give it up to stay at home with the children. And that's all part of the agenda as well, which, I wouldn't want to argue that one at the moment, because, I went through that as well, juggling career and children. But it is part of the agenda. It's to keep the mother out of the family, and to have the mother and the father out, and to have the children going through the system. So the state really run the child's mind. And so it's difficult, because I think there's a bit of a disconnect with him and what she's in, because she's feeling that we've all grown up with that whole thing of feminism. You have the right to pursue
mm-hmm.
your career. And if your children are in school for long hours, then it's character building. That's the way it's
And
seen.
nobody's ever taught what it is to be a female or to be a male. Nobody's ever taught that. Like
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
told what your role. I mean, even in the animal kingdom, there's a male lion, there's a female lion, whatever. That's what this one does. That's what that one does. Nobody said like it used to be. It used to be the man was the provider. It used to be that way, and
Yeah.
now it's everybody's got to go to work, and that's it. Even the children. Once they get to
Mm-hmm.
16, send them to get a job because we need to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you introduced your daughter-in-law to John Taylor Gatto or
Charlotte
Charlotte
Elizabeth.
Iserby? Yeah.
Oh, Charlotte Iserby, she's amazing. She's the
I
educator.
interviewed her
Yeah, she's
a long time ago.
unfortunately, sadly, she passed away a few years ago, and so has John Taylor Gatto. But amazing work they put out, and I'm going to send you later, and I'll link to it in the show notes here. But there's a 6 article series, I think it's that many, that Unlimited Hangout put. That's the one associated with Whitney Webb, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a a writer, and he had the opportunity to work with Charlotte in the last couple of years of her life, and he's kind of taken on the mantle of her work, and he put out a really excellent series on where education is now and how it's using. It sounds a lot like what you're talking about with this Lynn.
Lynn,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
the
listen,
You
I'd
could,
love to have that resource, if you can send
Yeah, I
send
will. I will. I'll
because
link to it
you
and I'll
could.
send
I'm
it to you.
I think
slowly reading stuff.
you can still download the PDF of our deliberate dumbing down of America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for free. We can still get that.
Parents don't understand. They don't understand the social engineering component of education. Their children are being modeled and
Indoctrinated.
molded, indoctrinated, yes, for specific things, and that's the world that they'll be coming into.
Mm. Yeah.
And if it, I mean, even thinking about it logically, that's the way they would have to do it because they know what's coming. The
Right.
people who run the system know what's coming, so
Right.
they know the kind of obedient workers they're going to need.
Hmm.
Mm.
They can't leave it to chance, can they?
Mm-mm.
We might all end up being geniuses in some field they don't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we might
That's
start growing, teaching people to grow food and stuff like that. They wouldn't like that, would they?
No, and I mean that was a huge part of John Taylor Gatto's thinking that he arrived at after years and years and years of being a teacher. He said children, students should be able to guide their own curriculum. They decide what moves them and what sparks their mind and their intellectual curiosity.
I
And we
think
don't have any of that. You know,
I
if
think
there's not a
that used to be the way in Germany. I think if in Germany when you were in higher education, if you didn't like the subject, you could change as many times as you wanted
yeah.
till you found something that you were you
mm.
enjoyed doing, basically. I don't know if it's still the same. That was many years ago, but yeah, I mean you're forced into a cul-de-sac, aren't you? I mean, when I was at school, you got there was a few columns, right? And when you went into high school, you had to pick no more than two subjects out of each column. So
Hmm.
this forced you into making choices you didn't want to make,
Hmm.
Mm.
and you had to do them. That was it. You were stuck with it. You can't take three in that one. I mean, I wanted to take metalwork, woodwork, and something else practical, and my parents want me to take Latin and French. A bit of a disconnect there, I think. So I failed Latin and French because I had no interest in it. I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, of
The only thing I
course.
remember in Latin is Cabi Canem, which is beware of the dog. I thought that might come in handy sometime. If I if I'm ever in Italy and that's on a fence, I know. That's it. Uh,
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, education. I mean, I don't know what to teach kids now because they can't read or write. It's incredible. I mean, I get text messages off of somebody's. Sandy, I do markets. I sell jewelry at markets, and I get text messages off of vendors and things like that, confirming if they're going to be there or not, or whatever. And you've got to take a degree in hieroglyphics to understand what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all like gobbledygook. You go, what does that mean? What's that? Jeez. Uh, and I do seasonal for UPS, and sometimes I've got to get signatures from people. And if it's a young person, they're asking me, "Oh, did it have to be in cursive?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, how
Yeah.
did you learn to write?" Like, are they just teaching in block capitals? I mean, what is it? How do
It
they
is
sign their names?
it is awful, really, isn't it? The destruction. I really think it's the how do you destroy the person or the I don't, person's the wrong word, but the self. And
Destroying
I kind
language.
yeah,
That's
and
one way.
yeah, I realized that actually there is this it's almost like I did on X the other day. I did this Russian doll series because for me it was a bit like opening a Russian doll. The first of all you destroy the nation state and then you open that doll and then you destroy the region. It could be the county or the state. And then you open the next one and then you destroy the community. And then you open the next one, you destroy the family, and then you destroy the self. And all of that mind control is happening on the nation state, the county,
Hmm.
the region, whatever you want to call it, the state, the community, the family, and the self. And it just boils it down because there is an attack on every one of those
Hmm.
kind of, if you see, those layers, if you like. Yeah. And the self is probably the most pernicious because it's done through education and through health as well. Um and I don't know how much you follow the sustainable development goals, in America, but I've been doing a big deep dive into the sustainable goals, and they are so inverted, and they're being used against us in every single way. And certainly on the self, I think it's the SGD4, which is quality education, because it's not quality education. Everything in education at the moment is to subvert and to get children questioning who they are, what they are,
Hmm.
even their sexuality, their
Hmm.
whatever. And it's there to really destroy them
Hmm.
and not build them up to be
Well,
whole
Hmm.
human beings.
Hmm.
Yeah.
if you destroy language, you destroy people's ability to even think properly because they don't have
Yeah.
the vocabulary.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
don't know how to put things into sensible thoughts.
Mm.
Well, let me ask a question here of you both, since we've been having a nice long chat. That I'm wondering, Neil and Sandy, if we could do this again next month.
Sure.
Love to. Absolutely love to.
Okay, and
Yeah.
we can get more into the sustainable development goals, and I think the whole education track is one that we can go down. And meanwhile, I'll send you those articles that went up
Oh,
on
well, thank
Unlimited
you,
Hangout.
Melissa.
Do you want a copy of this Green Agenda PDF?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like that too, Neil.
Yeah. Well, I'll send it to you and you can put the link in.
Okay. All
How's that?
right.
Thank you.
Like
No,
like my
Great.
friend in Norfolk, I've mentioned him before. He kind of sussed out this site wasn't going to be there that long because he tried to contact the guy to see if he was going to update it, and he thought, oh, I better grab this. So he put the whole website into PDF. So
great.
we've got that for
Amazing.
posterity. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to have you both on my podcast, which is 2030 and beyond as well. If you'd, as soon as I've got a minute, because I'm kind of doing loads at the moment, but I'd love to have you both on that as well, if
Yeah.
Oh,
that's,
Great.
that'd be
yeah,
great. Yeah.
I've got my
because
food and I've got my food planted in the ground until August. I don't have to really bother with much then. My chickens will be a bit bigger by the next time
you
we
know, I'm
talk
so
about it.
envious of you being in the States. I tell you, especially places like Florida and Texas, who are
It's
so they're
well,
so
I'll tell you what,
free.
I'm sitting in my office here. It is 86 degrees
Oh,
and
don't.
65% humidity. It's not all pleasant. I was doing a market the other day, it was 105
My
degrees.
heart bleeds.
Well, you probably get a nosebleed in some of these places at that. Well, you won't get a nosebleed, it's too flat here. But
Yeah.
I live in the highest part of Florida and it's only 300 meters 300 feet above sea level.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
wow, 'cause it's quite flat, isn't it? What
yeah.
so is it true that they've banned geoengineering in Florida? Is that
Well, that's what they said, but it still goes on every single day.
does
What
it?
what what DeSantis said was he'd banned unauthorized.
Oh, oh, well,
So that
is
that
it
means it's all authorized.
that's all ugh, God, no. That
But
doesn't work. That
we had this discussion last month, Melissa. Where are these guys getting all the fuel?
hmm
yeah, yeah,
hmm
Yeah.
yeah,
Somebody needs to ask that question. Maybe they could do that over there, Sandy. Say, we've got a shortage of gas, and how much your petrol is, but probably works out about $10 a gallon because your gallon's 20% bigger than ours.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And I said to this lady as well, I was talking about earlier, I says, you know that petrol, gasoline in the UK is about $10 a gallon, and they've got smaller engines than we have, but their gallon's 20% bigger. And she went,
Yeah.
what? I said, yeah, they've got a bigger gallon than we have, and you've got big, huge engines, like 3 times the size of theirs. So you're all paying the same. So
Oh, God.
yeah,
Amazing. So, yeah, it's really nice to be talking to people in the States because I do sometimes get asked to talk, to people over there. And I think it's really good that we've got that connection, toing and froing with information about what's going on here, what's going on there.
you're talking to an ethnic minority over here,
We're
Yeah.
talking to what?
an ethnic minority.
And I think,
But
oh, well, the
yeah,
same
I can't
here.
use that though. I can't use that. I'm a white male. I can't use that.
I know, I know.
I'm a,
It's, yeah.
But anyway,
Well,
anyway, there'll be a few more of us here next month for the World Cup. There'll be about 40,000.
yeah. Well, I'll just mention here at the close, and you might find this interesting, that between now and when we talk next month, Nick Hayes and I are going to do a co-production of Hayes Reviews and Real History with Melissa, and we are talking to Dom from Sheep Farm about
Oh,
the book
he's
that he
great.
wrote called Traders. So
Yes.
that's his new book out, and we'll talk about that. I think that will go out the first week of June, and then the three of us will speak again the second week of June.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
then next week for people, I will be speaking with Paula Aitken, and she is mother of child number 4 in the study that was done by,
Wakefield,
yeah,
Wakefield.
Wakefield,
Yeah.
thanks.
Oh,
Um,
Andrew Wakefield,
yeah,
yes.
Andrew Wakefield. So she's got a very interesting story to tell that casts a different light on the Wakefield study, and it's interesting. So tune in
Yeah.
next week if you want to hear her story. I think
Oh
it's
no,
it's
that
quite
that would be
interesting.
really good because yeah, yes, there's certain questions there. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, all right,
Okay, thank you.
everyone, thank you so much. I
Thank you.
really enjoyed the conversation today with Sandi Adams. I will put her website up. I think it is sandyadams.net or org. Net.
Dot net.
Okay. So sandyadams.net. I will link to that. We'll link to a few other things that we talked about. And I thank you
Yeah,
all for tuning in and listening.
thank you. Thank you so much.
And thanks, Neil.
You're welcome,
Thank
as
you.
always.
All right.
I've got something that the world didn't give me, and the world cannot take it away. And I've got something that the world didn't give me, and the world cannot take it away. Well, it is love, sweet love, oh, sent to me from my Father up above.